Okay, so first things first, a large part of this chapter is us getting a dual perspective between the Navy and the Straw Hats planning their next move, and I really like chapters like this because it makes you wonder more and more who's going to outpace the other right up until you reach that final page, which, all culminates in Kizaru and Sentomaru clash, coming to blows with each other at the end of the chapter, which, despite Kizaru saying he wants to handle this by the book, I don't think Sentomaru is going to give him that option. In fact, I hope I'm not alone when I say this, but this chapter definitely gave me vibes that this is going to be Sentomaru's swan song, and that this fight is going to be his final moments in the series. Which, if that is the case, I've definitely got complicated feelings on the character. Which is to say, while I've never hated him, it always felt like we could have gotten more with him in the series. Again, assuming this is going down the road I think it is. But I do feel pretty confident in that assessment because this whole chapter on top of last week's really play up on the idea that this is a battle for the government to win, but they're probably still likely to lose the war. Possibly. The only hitch in this whole thing, again, is Kizaru himself, and how far the Straw Hats can make it out to sea before he catches on to what's going on, because if he defeats Sentomaru in just enough record time to where he can still catch up to the Straw Hats, then there's only one other route this could go, which will be getting the fight a lot of fans have been clamoring for, which is Sanji versus Kizaru. And in a setup like that, I do worry for Sanji a bit, because in that scenario he'll be facing not only Kizaru but also the full force of the Navy probably backing Kizaru as well. So, and he'll be doing it alone. So for now, I'm hoping that the latter scenario isn't the one Oda's going for. Then again, I think a lot of this is also dependent on just on just how successful they are in getting out of here, and even more so if the Vega Force is still going to come into play with this, because Vegapunk said that they could use the Vega Force to escape, so I have to assume that's some kind of propulsion system, and when you combine it with the coup de burst on the Sunny, they'll probably be able to get pretty far. But all that being said, though, let's talk about the other big thing with this chapter, which is we're setting our next course for Elbaf, and oh boy, there are countless possibilities of how this could go down, both good and bad. But getting the obvious out of the way first, this is, of course, setting up a reunion between Usopp, Yasopp, and the Giant Pirates. And I think Usopp is I think Oda said it best. I think Usopp is going to be the main character. However this goes down, Usopp is basically going to be the main character. So however this plays out, he's going to be the heart of this of whatever the Elbaf arc looks like. And I think in that case, Usopp is probably going to be the crux of like a lot of the turning points in that arc, no matter what else goes on. But on top of that as well, and more importantly, likely with Elbaf, unless of course Oda like subverts our expectations again, that there is a very likelihood as well that like Luffy is going to be reunited with Shanks on Elbaf. And I'm not gonna lie, after the display Shanks demonstrated against Kid, I'm a little more concerned for how that reunion is going to go down, because don't get me wrong, I'm sure it's going to start out a lot more amicable than how things went down with Kid, but at the same time, something is clearly going on with Shanks. Something about the way he's been acting just doesn't feel like the Shanks we've known. And you could definitely make the argument, which is a fair argument, to say we've only ever known one side of Shanks, so maybe this is basically the other side of him that we're getting to see in full force. But also, ever since that moment, apparently, ever since between that moment between Shanks and Kid, many have theorized that whatever's going on with Shanks, it's got something to do with rocks, which, yeah, I'm not going to rule that possibility. I never want to look away a possibility like that. But even more so, expanding upon that theory, the bigger question is what the bigger question of said theory is whether or not Shanks is Rox's son. Like that's kind of the crux of the biggest theory I've been hearing, is that Shanks is supposedly Rox's son. And I'm not gonna lie, there is a part this is the part of the theory I'm having a little bit of trouble squaring timeline wise. But there is a small window of room in which Oda could make it fit and make it work. But let's actually explore that for a minute. For argument's sake, let's say it's basically true. Right from the jump, it's true that Shanks is basically Rox's son. That just begs the question even further of just what Shanks' motivation here is and how it ties to Rox. Because as Shanks proclaimed more than a handful of chapters back, they're making their own push to find the One Piece. And from my understanding, like, this is a recent development with Shanks. He's not shown that much interest in it up to this point. So what's changed? How are Rox and the One Piece even connected? That's the kind of thing that demands an explanation when Luffy and Shanks meet again. And while on the topic as well, I think it's more than likely than ever that the Red Hair Pirates and the Straw Hats are going to engage in some kind of Davy back fight as a final test Shanks gives Luffy to see if he's truly ready to face what's to come. And I think for Shanks, like, the outcome of such a contest, whether it's a full-on fight or just a Davy back fight, whatever it turns out to be, I think the outcome of whatever they do will determine for Shanks whether he can trust Luffy to carry on whatever burden he's been carrying through Rox, or if he has to crush Luffy's dream of becoming Pirate King here and just continue onward himself in order to find the One Piece. Because I think with the way Shanks said he's going to pursue the One Piece, it's clear that there's something about the One Piece where it pretty much can't fall into the hands of someone like the One Piece cannot. It kind of builds up the attention of the idea that the One Piece cannot, by any circumstance, fall into the hands of someone like say Blackbeard or something. Like it has to either be Luffy or Shanks at this point. They are the ones who have to find the One Piece. Like, I don't know. It could be. I don't know. I could be way off base, but that's kind of how I've connected these threads so far. Is that, like, whatever the connection between Rox and Shanks and the One Piece is, it is something where the One Piece cannot be in the hands of anyone but either Shanks or Luffy, unfortunately. And I think that's kind of how it has. That's kind of how it has to be too. But now, I'm not gonna lie. With all that said, if I did have a genuine problem with this chapter, it's the whole Snake Seraphim situation and just why she turned. Like, don't get me wrong. The way it's explained does kind of make sense. She does technically have Hancock's DNA mixed in, so it makes sense she would honor Luffy's request. But, like, I don't know. This is one of those rare times where I do say the whole thing with the Snake Seraphim, aka Hancock's clone, does feel a little convenient for the sake of moving the plot forward. Like, I don't normally say that with One Piece, but this is one of those rare times where it definitely feels like that's the case. Like the transition with her, like the transition specifically, really, of her going from I'm not gonna help anyone to sure I'll help you. It just really felt rushed and kind of out of place. I don't know. Just something just didn't work. No matter how it's explained, something about that just doesn't add up. And again, despite how in character it is for Seraphim with Hancock's DNA to do, like, something just didn't feel right. Whether it was in pacing of it or just I don't know. With that said, I did like a lot of the interactions between Vegapunk and the Straw Hats in this chapter, but especially Frankie, where they talk about how where Vegapunk, when we get Vegapunk's reaction to Frankie explaining the Sunny's coup de burst function, like, it's really funny to see Vegapunk react to all the different, like, engineering oddities Frankie comes up with and how he's used Vegapunk's technology. Like, all of that feels like a really great way of getting Vegapunk's perspective and characterization, and how, like, wide-eyed, even even he is at having someone to bounce off of, which in itself I think does show an underlying tragedy of Vegapunk's character, which is for a good chunk of his life, he's trapped himself on Egghead Island with the only people he's had to bounce ideas off of are clones of himself. But for the first time in like God knows how long, he does seem genuinely happy at being able to interact with other genuine people again. Like I think it's something that he definitely missed from his time of knowing Dragon and whatnot. So yeah, but yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. From me on Twitter and on this Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, everyone.